I don't want a fake mother at my wedding, Hazel says with a smile. True, we're not related by blood, but I've always loved and raised her as my own daughter. Are you serious? I ask. Of course I am. I want my real parents at my wedding. You can just stay home and house sit, Hazel declares firmly. Is that so? Well, I'll gladly do that, I respond with a smile. She probably didn't expect me to agree so readily. Huh? Why? Hazel mutters quietly. She should have firmly said, don't come, period, but I suppose she's as careless with details as her father. Because I know everything, I tell her. Hazel's eyes widen at my words. Laughing at her reaction, I tell her something that changes everything. A few days later, on her wedding day, I stayed at home as planned. Then I received a message from Hazel on my smartphone. As planned, it was the perfect ceremony. I smiled as I answered the phone call that came right after reading that message. I'm Dahlia, a 46-year-old single mother. I've always been easily influenced by others, going along with what people tell me to do. You're so cute, this dress will definitely suit you. You think so? Then I'll take this one. Though I actually preferred comfortable blue clothes, I'd wear the cute pink dresses my mother recommended. You're smart, so why don't you try for this high school? All right, I will. I'd choose my school based on my father's suggestions. It's not that I didn't have my own opinions, but I found it easier to go along with others rather than risk conflict by expressing my own views. Still, since the final decision was mine, I always took responsibility for my choices. I can't believe she actually got in. Dahlia makes me so proud. Yes, and she's so stylish too, I'm proud as well. Thank you. Hearing you say that makes all my hard work worthwhile. Even though I was just going with the flow, I studied hard to get into the high school I'd chosen, and I learned about fashion coordination to wear the clothes my mother recommended well. Growing up this way, I had zero romantic experience. Dahlia is so pretty, I wonder why she doesn't have a boyfriend? At this rate, she might end up with some sketchy guy. Aren't you exaggerating? My mother called me pretty, but I had a very ordinary face. Moreover, my friends would say, you're too easily influenced, you need to be careful, and they were wary of any men who approached me. Eventually, no men worth breaking through this protective barrier approached me, and that's why I never had a relationship. Then, my father, worried about me, introduced me to a man. My father was a department manager in sales at an acquaintance's company. This acquaintance's son was single like me and didn't have a partner. They suggested having their children meet. I don't mind. Even though they were just acquaintances, the other party was the company president. Thinking my father couldn't refuse from his position, I agreed to his suggestion. I'm Ed, nice to meet you. That's how I met my husband Ed. At first, we had dinner at a restaurant our parents had reserved as a trial. We exchanged contact information and started dating. I like quiet girls like you. Would you officially go out with me? Eventually, he confessed to me. I had taken a liking to his serious demeanor, so I accepted his confession and we started dating. The following year we got married and had a peaceful married life. I have to work this weekend. Oh, really? That's too bad, but it can't be helped if it's work. About 2 years into our marriage, Ed, being the next in line to become president, was working even on holidays. What do you mean too bad? Do you have a problem with it? That's not what I meant. It's just that we were planning to go shopping together this weekend for the first time in a while. At my words, Ed let out a deep sigh and looked at me with annoyed eyes. Who do you think allows you to be a housewife? It's because I work that you don't have to. I had become a housewife at Ed's insistence when we got married. True, I couldn't live without Ed's income. But did I deserve such harsh words just for expressing a little disappointment? I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I was just looking forward to going out with you. When I apologized, Ed snorted and went to his room. Around this time, Ed had started treating me coldly. Did I do something wrong? I wondered, but couldn't think of anything. As a housewife, I hadn't been neglecting my housework. I thought I was providing Ed with the same lifestyle as when we were newlyweds. At this rate, having children would remain just a dream. I had always liked children. That's why I had told Ed before marriage that I wanted many children. I've always dreamed of being surrounded by lots of children too, Ed had said back then, but now we couldn't even find time for each other as a couple. Was Ed always like this? After marriage, he had completely changed. Once I quit my job at his insistence, he started looking down on me, saying things like, "You can't survive without me. Since it's the weekend and I'm free, maybe I should go shopping alone to change my mood. There's no point in worrying. If Ed won't come along, I can shop at my own pace." That's what I thought, trying to switch gears and get some fresh air. However, that decision led me to see something unpleasant. When I visited a newly opened shopping mall, I spotted Ed walking arm in arm with a woman. That woman, I knew who she was. Cecile, an heiress from a wealthy family so famous that no one in the area hadn't heard of her. Why is she with Ed? Ed looked somewhat happy as he dealt with Cecile, who kept changing her expressions. Seeing an expression I hadn't seen on him since marriage, I could only stand frozen, unable to even call out to them. Could Ed be having an affair? I muttered to myself as various thoughts raced through my mind. If Ed's affair was true, should I get divorced? But I needed evidence first. But how would I get it? What are you doing? When I came to my senses, I was at home, and Ed was calling out to me suspiciously. What are you spacing out for? And where's dinner? Haven't even prepared the bath for your husband who came home tired? Hey, Ed, are you having an affair? I blurted out to Ed as he kept complaining. His body trembled. I saw you walking with a woman today. Now, what would he say? Would he get angry? Demand a divorce? While I was thinking this, I'm sorry. Actually, she threatened to cancel the contract unless I went on dates with her. He came out with an apology and excuse. According to Ed, her parents and Ed's father had a business relationship, and he was being forced to go on occasional dates under threat. You're the only one I truly love. I need you. I understand. But don't meet her again. Confused by the information given in such a short time, I forgave him. Thank you, Ed said with a smile. After that, he started coming straight home after work and blocked Cecile's contact information. It'll be all right. We can start over. Seeing Ed's behavior, I thought we could continue our married life. However, that hope would be easily shattered. I'm sorry for making you come out with me. No, I enjoyed it too. The year after Ed's affair was discovered, I was out with my mother-in-law. Oh yes, I recently received some delicious tea from my mother. Would you like to try some? Oh, really? I think I will, since you offered. I had a good relationship with my in-laws. Initially, we tried not to interfere with each other, but after, I'm so sorry about my foolish son. Thank you for not divorcing him after what he did. We'll do anything we can to help. We started interacting more, and my mother-in-law and I became close friends. Hey, do you hear crying? Yes, isn't it coming from in front of your house? When we arrived home with my mother-in-law, there was a young girl crying in front of the entrance. We hurried to her and called out immediately. However, the girl just kept crying, "Mama," and we couldn't understand the situation at all. I'll call the police right away. Yes, please. What's this? While comforting the crying girl, I found a small note in her clothes pocket. The note, in Ed's handwriting, read, "I'll give you Hazel and this house, so please let me go." As soon as I finished reading it, a bad feeling crossed my mind. Could Ed have run away with Cecile? Unfortunately, that feeling proved correct. Soon after, the police and my father-in-law took action, and Ed was found with Cecile at a hotel. I wanted to be happy with Cecile, leaving behind that boring woman and troublesome child. That's what Ed reportedly said when charged with abandonment of a person under protection. According to Ed's story, he met Cecile at a party right after marrying me and started a relationship with her. Then Cecile became pregnant with Hazel. By the time I realized, it was too late for anything but giving birth. Although Cecile gave birth to Hazel, she had no intention of raising her. Her parents just spoiled Cecile and were almost completely indifferent to Hazel. She was apparently raised by Cecile's grandmother, the only sensible person, but she had passed away. There's no one to take care of her, and Hazel is in her rebellious phase and won't listen, so we dumped her at your place. Ed was supposed to come to me and we were supposed to be happy. That's what Cecile reportedly said when she was arrested with Ed. This is terrible. Not only did he pretend to be remorseful and then betray me, but to abandon his own daughter. Having finally lost all patience, I chose to divorce Ed. You've been through a lot, Hazel. The problem was Hazel, who was left behind. Both Ed and Cecile were arrested, so she had lost her place to stay. Cecile's parents refused to take her in. Ed's parents aren't in a position to take her in either. With my mother-in-law having collapsed after learning of Ed's foolishness, and my father-in-law needing to support her while protecting the company, they probably couldn't afford to take in Hazel. In this situation, Hazel clung to my clothes looking lonely. Hey, Hazel, would you like to live with me? Before I knew it, I had asked her that. Hazel was only 2 years old, yet she would have to go to an institution without receiving love from those around her. Maybe I sympathized with that. Raising a child isn't as easy as you think. That's right, and you're still young, you could start over. Of course, my parents opposed my decision. However, my determination was firm. This was the first time I had decided something for myself, and I couldn't abandon Hazel, who would become unhappy because of Ed and Cecile. All right. If you're that determined, we'll just support you. And so I came to raise Hazel. Hazel, did you forget anything? I'm fine. I'm not a child anymore. 20 years have passed since then, and while raising her was really tough, Hazel grew up well. Hazel knows she's not related to me by blood. I had planned to keep quiet about it, but one tactless relative told her the truth. Well, you tend to be a bit careless, don't you? I think I got that from you. Even knowing the truth, Hazel still looks up to me as her mother. She recently graduated from university and is about to get married. Today, she's going to look at wedding venues with her fiancé. Well then, I'm off. Have a good time. Watching Hazel leave with a happy smile, I turned to my own work. On the day I decided to take in Hazel, I started looking for a job. I needed to earn money by myself to raise Hazel without depending on Ed anymore. In that case, why don't you work at our company? Then my father-in-law made that offer. Thanks to him, I not only got a job but was placed in a department where I could mainly work from home, so I could spend time with Hazel. I still continue that work and have been promoted to earn a good income. I want to be like you. Following in my footsteps, Hazel got a job at the same company through her own efforts. While feeling my daughter's growth, who I had raised with such difficulty, I devoted myself to work. I'm home. Welcome back. Did something happen? I expected Hazel to come home excited, but contrary to my expectations, she returned looking troubled. Did something happen with Connor? Connor is Hazel's fiancé. They were in the same club in high school, and Hazel approached him to start dating. Connor is a somewhat timid young man. It's nothing, said Hazel as she headed to her room. From that day on, her behavior changed. Hazel seemed to be always lost in thought, giving half-hearted responses when I called out to her. Seeing this behavior and thinking something must have happened, I contacted someone. Hey, I need to talk to you. One day, Hazel spoke to me brusquely. Looking at her unsettled gaze, I braced myself, thinking this day had finally come. About my wedding. I don't want you to come. Hazel wouldn't look me in the eye as she said this. Even though I was prepared for it, it still hurts when your daughter actually says it. I've decided to invite my real parents to the wedding. Honestly, my real mother is prettier, and I think she'd be perfect for my wedding. Besides, having both parents there would make a better impression. After rattling all this off at once, Hazel looked at my face. I don't want a fake mother at my wedding, she said with a smile. I wonder when she started thinking like this. True, we're not related by blood. However, I've raised her as my own daughter all this time. Are you serious? Of course I am. I want my real parents at my wedding. You can just stay home and house sit. To Hazel's firm declaration, I responded with a smile, is that so? Well, I'll gladly do that. She probably didn't expect me to agree so readily. Huh? Why? Hazel muttered quietly. She should have firmly said, don't come, period, but I suppose she's as careless with details as her father. Because I know everything, I told her. Hazel's eyes widened at my words. Laughing at her reaction, I told her something. You don't need to worry about anything. Just do what you want. When I said this, Hazel nodded slightly. Let's enjoy this. Both of us. A few days later, on Hazel's wedding day, I was at home as planned. Then I received a message from Hazel on my smartphone. As planned, it was the perfect ceremony. I smiled as I answered the phone call that came right after reading that message. It's been a while. What do you want? Huh? You know why. When I answered the phone, I heard a familiar voice. The caller was Ed. What kind of education did you give Hazel? I simply loved her as my daughter from the bottom of my heart. Don't mess with me. Because of her, we were humiliated. And then Ed started telling me, without me asking, what had happened at the wedding. Ed and Cecile, who attended Hazel's wedding in my place. Then, Connor's parents asked them, who are you? Where's Dahlia? When Ed and Cecile tried to say, we are Hazel's real parents, Hazel explained, these are those people. Connor's parents seemed to respond with a meaningful "I see." Although something about their reaction bothered them, Ed and Cecile enjoyed the wedding feast without paying it much mind. Eventually, the ceremony moved on to Hazel's letter of thanks. "The person I'm truly grateful to isn't these people here, but the mother who raised me for 20 years. Hazel talked about how Ed and Cecile had abandoned her when she was 2 years old, how they were arrested for it, and how they suddenly tried to get close to her despite having no involvement in her life until now. Being born to such parents is my only blemish." After she concluded with those words, Ed and Cecile found themselves receiving cold stares from everyone around them. "So what? Hazel only told the truth, didn't she? Do you have any idea what we went through because of that? I can't understand people who try to act like parents after running away from their responsibilities. I did receive compensation for the affair, but it wasn't from them, it was from Cecile's parents as hush money, with the condition that Hazel wouldn't publicly claim to be their daughter. Despite that, you're the ones who approached Hazel, weren't you? The day Hazel went to look at the wedding venue, she had just happily left the venue with Connor, saying, 'It looks like we can have our ideal wedding.' It's been a while, Hazel. You've grown into such a beauty, just like me." That's how they apparently called out to her. While Hazel was confused about meeting her birth parents for the first time, Ed and Cecile told her they were her real parents. Then, they apparently demanded support since she was their daughter. When I heard this story, I felt intense anger towards Ed and Cecile. What's wrong with that? Hazel is our daughter, so it's natural for her to support her parents, right? You abandoned your parental responsibilities, yet you demand she fulfill her duties as a daughter? You're the ones who are being ridiculous. I wasn't the only one who felt angry. Hazel herself despised them for suddenly appearing as parents, and after consulting with Connor, she chose to expose Ed and Cecile at the wedding. By the way, where are you now? In the relatives' waiting room. Why? Then stay there quietly. Your ride will be there shortly. Right after I said that, I heard someone shouting, "You foolish son," through the phone. It seems my father-in-law had arrived. Why is Dad here? Well, isn't it a child's duty to repay their parents? So make sure you properly repay your father too. I said this and hung up the phone. Now then, I need to prepare a feast for my dear daughter. We're planning to celebrate with Hazel and Connor today. I rolled up my sleeves to make Hazel's favorite dishes. We're home. Welcome back, and congratulations. After a while, Hazel and Connor came to my house. When I greeted them at the entrance, they came in with smiles. So what happened to those two? They were successfully taken care of by Grandpa. He was telling them to get jobs if they needed money. The reason Ed and Cecile suddenly approached Hazel was that the company owned by Cecile's parents had gone bankrupt. The executives at that company were all family members, and I never heard anything good about them, my father-in-law had explained. The company run by Cecile's father had her mother as vice president, and all the executives were relatives. If they had managed the company properly, it would have been fine, but in reality, they were tyrannical towards their employees, making them work even on holidays. The employees were already accumulating complaints, and then Ed and Cecile showed up. They also did whatever they wanted, and finally, the employees' anger exploded. The employees, who had finally had enough of the Cecile family's tyranny, apparently reported the company's actual conditions everywhere. As a result, the company quickly went bankrupt. However, they still had income from real estate and other sources, so they could maintain their luxurious lifestyle for a while. But the victims of the Cecile family were more numerous than expected, and they had to sell even their real estate as compensation. Coming to me because they can't make a living anymore. What a nuisance, Hazel muttered with a frown when I told her what I'd heard from my father-in-law. Connor also gave a wry smile beside her. It's embarrassing to have parents like that. Connor, I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Don't worry about it. I promise to make you happy, so this much is nothing. Honestly, without Connor, I might not have been able to talk with Hazel with smiles like this. When I noticed Hazel's behavior had changed, I contacted him. Actually, 2 people claiming to be Hazel's real parents appeared. Connor had apparently been told by Hazel to keep quiet about it, but thinking this might create a rift in our relationship, he told me everything without hiding anything. About the contact from Ed and Cecile, and about the plan to humiliate them at the wedding. Without Connor, I might have ended up resenting Hazel. At my words, this time Hazel gave a wry smile. There was a reason why she tried to reject me without explaining the situation. I thought I might cause you trouble too. Hazel apparently thought that since Ed and Cecile had started fixating on her, being with me might cause me trouble too. That's why she deliberately tried to create distance. You've already done so much for me, raising me despite having no blood relation or obligation. I couldn't bear to cause you any more trouble because of me. I understand how you feel. But at least let me worry about you as a parent. When I said this, Hazel smiled shyly. Connor watched her with a gentle smile. By the way, what's going to happen to them? Oh, Ed's father is going to send them to work at a relative's factory. Actually, we weren't the only ones angry about this situation. My father-in-law was also furious with Ed and Cecile, especially Ed, his own son. Not only did they bring shame to us, but to cause trouble for Hazel as well. I absolutely won't forgive this. When my father-in-law learned through me that Ed and Cecile had contacted Hazel, that's what he said. And that's why he moved to secure them this time. That factory is rumored to be very strict. So I think they won't have time to bother us anymore. Connor looked relieved at my words. Connor, who was the most uninvolved yet acted for Hazel's sake, that's why I can entrust my precious Hazel to him. Now then, enough about those people. Let's celebrate properly. When I said this and brought out the feast I had prepared, both of them were overjoyed. I won't let anyone interfere with your happiness. I muttered this while watching the 2 of them. Shortly after that, I would end up confronting Ed and Cecile. The week after the wedding, Hazel and Connor went on their honeymoon, and I was going to work as usual. Although I had started with remote work, I began going to the office around the time Hazel entered middle school. Hey, Dahlia. When I turned around after being called in front of the company, there stood a shabby-looking man. Who might you be? It's me, Ed. Apparently, that man was Ed. He had been young and handsome 20 years ago, but the Ed before me looked older than his age. That's why I couldn't recognize him immediately. You haven't changed at all, so I knew it was you right away. I'm in trouble right now. Do you need something? I'm busy with work right now. I cut off Ed's words to tell him this. Actually, I don't have time to deal with him. I'm sorry about what happened 20 years ago. Hey, why don't we start over? I was just deceived by Cecile. You were my true destiny. As he said this while approaching me, I kept my distance. I never thought he would have fallen this far. While thinking about this, I contacted my father-in-law by phone to let him know Ed was here. If I ask you, you'll help me, won't you? Please don't underestimate me. I'm not the same easily influenced person you used to know. I used to be someone who went along with things to avoid trouble. The me from back then might have helped Ed when he asked. However, Hazel changed that part of me. I changed from the moment I decided to take in and raise Hazel. That's what becoming a parent means. The thought that I couldn't protect Hazel if I kept being so passive changed me. I don't need you. When I said this firmly, Ed looked shocked. I don't understand why he would make such a face, but I glared at him coldly. Why does everything bad happen to me? Then Ed suddenly lost his temper and tried to come at me. What are you doing? Executive Director, are you all right? At that moment, one of the employees rushed over and restrained Ed. It seems my father-in-law had given instructions to the employees in advance. Huh? Executive Director? Yes, that's right. Thanks to someone running away, I became the next president. Originally, Ed was supposed to become the next president. However, he was fired from that role due to his misconduct with Cecile. I was chosen to replace him. I'm currently executive director, but I'll be president soon. Thank you for abandoning your responsibilities. When I said this with a smile, Ed made a frustrated face. Shortly after that, my father-in-law arrived and Ed was taken away somewhere. Apparently he escaped when his relatives weren't watching. They say they'll keep strict surveillance this time so he won't escape again. After explaining this, my father-in-law apologized, saying, "My son has caused you trouble again." By the way, it wasn't just Ed who escaped, Cecile did too. She apparently contacted all her acquaintances asking for help but was rejected by everyone. I'll apologize for back then, so please help me. I've never worked properly before, so I can't suddenly handle factory work. It seems she tried to contact me too, but since I had blocked Cecile's contact information, it remained unread. And with nowhere to run, Cecile was also successfully secured and is now working under even stricter supervision, apparently cursing at each other while they work. They might have been able to escape responsibility before, but now they need to properly shoulder that burden too. I need to tell Hazel when she gets back. Thinking this, I devoted myself to work. After that, the Cecile family dispersed. They're apparently all paying the price for the responsibilities they tried to run away from. I wish I could have seen you tell them off clearly, Hazel said somewhat regretfully when I told her about what had happened when she brought back souvenirs from her honeymoon. Still, she seemed somewhat pleased, which made me smile too. So those people won't come around anymore? No. But I'm planning to move just in case. It would be lonely living in this house alone anyway. Hazel, who had been living with me, is moving out due to marriage. Along with that, I plan to move to an apartment near the company. By the way, my parents and Ed's parents are also planning to move. While it's partly a precaution against Ed, they said they're planning to retire and live in the countryside. You should live with us. You're newlyweds, so you two should live happily together. You can come visit anytime. Sorry, Hazel, but now that I'm finally free from child rearing, I want to enjoy living alone for a while. I see. Thank you so much for raising me all this time. Hazel seems to understand what I'm thinking. Being told this with a full smile made me feel rewarded. Thank you for being my daughter. I replied this way, and mother and daughter smiled together. After that, I took over the company from my father-in-law and became president. While there are many challenges, I'm living fulfilling days. I should thank Ed for giving up the presidency and making me Hazel's mother. Ed and Cecile, who apparently now just work without even the energy to try escaping, must be full of regret. Well, time to forget about those two and focus on work. Pushing thoughts of them to a corner of my mind, I devoted myself to work. Sometime later, I visited a restaurant at Hazel and Connor's invitation. What a lovely restaurant. Isn't it? Actually, this is Connor's family's restaurant. When I turned at Hazel's voice, there she was, dressed in a wedding gown. Seeing my eyes widen in surprise, she gave me a mischievous smile. I wanted you to see my special day. Her words touched me deeply. To be honest, even though I understood the circumstances, it had made me sad that I couldn't attend Hazel's wedding. Today is my real wedding. Apparently, only a few people who helped with the plan had been invited to the wedding that Ed and Cecile attended. And then Connor's parents, who were among those helpers, suggested hosting a restaurant wedding here at their own establishment. I see. You look absolutely beautiful, Hazel. Thank you. A radiant Hazel walked towards Connor, who was dressed in a tuxedo. As I watched her go, burning this image into my memory, I sent her off with a smile on my face.